because we're
I
live.
won't. I won't.
Let's make sure we're good to go. And this is the first time we're actually like on time,
We're a
and we're
minute late.
moving. All right, folks, welcome to episode 11. Today's show, as usual, is sponsored by HMH Fly Tying. HMH has been making fly tying vices, tying tools, tube fly material since 1975. Located in Biddeford, Maine, their products are not only made in the U.S., but all of the vice parts are made in the state of Maine. All HMH products are hand assembled by a small team of not only fly tyers but registered Maine fishing guides. These guys know what works. All their products can be seen at tyingvices.com or ask your favorite fly tying shop to get HMH.
We are also sponsored by Midwest Bucktail. Guys, check out their bucktails. They're pretty good. And their colors are awesome. From Friday night to Sunday at 11:59 p.m., you can get a discount. Just type in ATV10 to get your 10% discount. Check them out.
All right. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Bryan Rosa, Captain Bryan Rosa. He's here today. So we're going to get Bryan to introduce himself, and then we're going to go into our thing. So, Bryan, go ahead. Shoot.
Hello, I am Bryan Rosa. I'm a registered Maine guide and a licensed captain. On Instagram, my business is Origin Outfitters. Do fly fishing trips in southern Maine, mostly out of South Portland, but Saco area as well. I recently moved to Sopo, so I've been fishing that a lot more. But Saco area, South Portland, that area. Exclusively fly at this point. I did do some freshwater stuff before, but just basically stripers are my bread and butter. It's what I love the most, so focusing on that.
Okay. All right. That's it? That's all you got to say?
Yeah, I mean, ask away. I got answers.
I mean, like kids, wife.
Oh, no. Oh, okay, no. No kids. I am engaged as of February.
Hey, if you need a photographer for your wedding, I know a guy.
Yeah, I do too.
You're looking at them.
That's, hey, it's not a bad idea because I will want one. This summer, she is, Rachel, my fiance, she is hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Holy shnikes.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's gone. She's been gone since March 20th, and
Wow.
she's crushing it. She just passed halfway mark.
Wow, already?
Yeah. They're shooting to be done August 20th. So essentially what that means for me is fish as much as I can.
That's
Wow,
right.
you can.
She's gone.
That's right.
Because when she gets back,
That's
married
it.
life and, starting a family, all that good stuff. So taking advantage of it now while I can. Me and the pup, he's sitting there sleeping. Hopefully he doesn't get up and unplug my computer on me again, but yeah, I mean, moved up to Maine. I'm technically a masshole, so there's that.
Oh, okay.
Some people don't like that, but it is what it is.
Whereabouts?
But
Whereabouts? From whereabouts?
right next to Lowell in Chelmsford.
Oh, man, we used to play low all the time when I played hockey.
What, down in Jersey?
No, in Massachusetts. I used to live on the Cape. Mashpee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Mashpee. Yeah. So I moved up to Maine in 2011 to get sober, actually. So so far so good. So that's basically kind of where I've always fished, but getting sober was kind of like the catalyst to actually being able to, have a normal life and do normal hobbies and stuff. So once I got sober, pretty much fishing took a front seat for as far as like hobbies go and whatever, and just really took off with it. And shortly after, getting sober and I did the whole, treatment and sober house thing and whatever. And once I moved out on my own, quote unquote, I mean, it was just constant, I mean, you all know the kind of obsession around like fly fishing and learning all the new techniques and all this and that. I didn't start fly fishing until I moved up here, so about 12 years at this point. Always fished, never fly fished, and I actually kind of got into it by accident. Not by accident, I guess, but I bought a rod and then it sat in my truck for about a year, maybe 6 months, and I didn't know, I didn't know anything about what I was doing. Obviously, none of us do when we start. And I was bass fishing a lake up here in October, and there were these fish. And mind you, given that I wasn't a fly fisherman growing up, like I didn't know, I knew a little bit about trout, but not really. So I'm sitting there at this culvert, and there's just fish everywhere, and I can see them, but I can't tell what they are. So I'm throwing Senkos at them, spinner baits, swim baits. I'm literally throwing everything I can. I'm throwing frogs out there, trying to get them to bite. And finally, one of them just flies out of the water, leaps out of the water, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's a trout!" And it wasn't a trout; it was a salmon, which I found out later on. But I basically was like, "Oh shit, I got a fly rod in my truck." Trout, fly rod, like that's how it works, right? So I ran back to my truck, grabbed, I think it was like it was like one of those Walmart 5-6 weight, heavy as a brick rods, and ran back to my truck, rifled through my stuff, pulled it out, tied a like 2-foot piece of 12-pound mono to the end of the line with the clinch knot, tied on a mosquito dry fly, which I didn't know it was a mosquito dry fly at that time. Just tied on whatever fly I had. I literally just flailed it out there, and I just started like twitching it on the surface, and the salmon actually came up and hammered it. It was like a 14-inch salmon.
Nice.
That was the first fish on the fly, technically, I guess. But as they say, I was hooked from there, and very quickly learned that my 2-foot, 12-pound leader is not proper setup for leaders. But it worked, it worked at the time. So
that's all that matters. It works.
Yeah, it worked. It was fun, and from that point on, it was just kind of like a lot of us. Just I would go out, I would get frustrated, watch YouTube, do this, and then eventually it was like I'm leaving the spinning rods at home. I'm focusing solely on fly, whatever. And then for a very, very long time, it was pretty much exclusively fly fishing that I did. Like we were talking before, I'll throw spin rods for stripers. I don't spin fish freshwater at all, but for stripers, I do enjoy throwing big plugs and stuff. But at this point, my guiding is exclusively fly. And the only reason I actually got into spin fishing for stripers was because I found that I had zero confidence with a spinning rod. Like when I was a kid, like 14, 15, like I would go to Seabrook Beach and Hampton Beach area and catch stripers with clams and fish finder rig and all that. But as far as lures go and swim baits and sluggos and plugs and all that, I had like zero confidence. I had more confidence with a fly rod. So it was kind of like I want to be able to. I guess it was a new opportunity to like learn something new. Not that I'm done learning fly fishing. I still learn shit all the time fly fishing. But to like pick up a spin rod and feel like I have a better chance with a fly rod, it's kind of a weird feeling. So it just kind of gave me this motivation to like, I want to try a spin rod. Try fishing some areas that you really aren't going to fish with a fly rod, like 50 feet deep. With a 2-ounce swim bait. Things like that. And it's fun. I enjoy it. But as far as like I said earlier, 90% of my striper fishing is fly fishing, just because it's a blast.
So I came across your page because Nate reposted you on his page, and it was talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And that's what like struck me because there's a lot of people out there that have issues with certain things and find other things that would help them cope with their mental illnesses. And I believe a lot of people could benefit from fly fishing for it. And that's how I came across you. And then I started following you, and then there's more and more and more and more. And it was like every week or, at least once a week, you were definitely getting a nice video, something educational, and
Trying.
uh, it was like, all right, this dude's cool. All right, yeah, I like it. And so, can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what do you mean? What do you do with the mental health
Yeah.
um, and all of that?
Um, so fishing in general, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Like we all know that fishing. Hopefully, my chair's not too damn squeaky. We all know that fishing is take out the fishing part. Just being outside is good for your mental health, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and quote studies, right? I haven't dove into it that deep, but I could find one in 3 seconds if I wanted to. Some study about, excuse me, spending time outside and so forth. And but as far as like for me, part of why I think I gravitated towards fly fishing like an addict, I guess you could say, is because and I guess the easiest way to put it is like in order to actually be successful with a fly rod, you have to be like 100% present.
Yeah.
Like 3 days ago, I was striper fishing the flat, throwing a crab on the flats. The takes on some of these fish was like this most subtle tap, and it's just like if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss it, And it's that aspect of fly fishing, and it goes for anything: trout, dry flies, nymphing, muskie, pike, like any type of fly fishing. Honestly, regular spin fishing as well. If you know, there's a spectrum, I guess, when I really think about it, right? Because there's people like you all and Greg, Nate, a bunch of my friends, I'm sure a bunch of your friends who are like diehard fishermen, right? Like I could tell by your page and what you guys are posting that you're always thinking about it, you're always doing it, right? And then there's the people who they enjoy it, but they're not as obsessed, I guess, as we are. Um, but the people who are what I would call like excellent fishermen, who are very good fishermen, who are successful fishermen, they all have that one like aspect of it where they're just so dialed in.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate presence.
Yeah.
So for me, that was kind of what I think drove me towards fishing. Because like I said, I always fished when I was a kid, but what really pulled me towards it once I got sober was like everything else goes away. You know that thing that's going around on Instagram where it's like the noise, a bunch of people talking, and then it goes quiet.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of people did it with fishing and whatever. It's true. It's like spot on. I get out there, I get fishing, and everything else doesn't really matter for the time being. I mean, there's a million things that we could talk about. I'm sure you all, identify with that as well.
Well, I know Joe's got like severe brain injuries, and sometimes he picks up like CBS News out of Philly when he's just fishing with the fly rod way up there. It just connects, and you just hear it going out his mouth. So, um, no, but he's had some injuries due to mountain biking, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that's one of the reasons he fishes, and it helps him kind of just get rid of things. And I have things that happen to me that I do it. I know Dave suffers from other things, and I think the everyday person that does like to fish, if they just gave it a bigger or a longer time to actually try it out further, I think they would see a lot more drastic changes in their lifestyle and just the benefits that it brings to you. Because being out in the nature, it's like so different.
Therapeutic.
Like it is.
Therapeutic, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like there's a lot of people, like I said earlier, that they're not like us, if you will. They just enjoy it from time to time. They don't keep tabs on the conservation efforts and like population of stripers and how the trout are doing and all this, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But they enjoy it, and I would be well. I do know because I did a bunch of interviews, kind of just to do some research with a ton of people. It was probably like 40 people, over 40 people. Every single person, even the people who didn't initially think that they fly fished for any mental health benefit, as we kind of dug deeper, they were like, oh yeah, I guess that is kind of why I do it. Like the saying, oh, it's not about the fish.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, right? It is,
It
but
is.
it's also not. There's a lot of other aspects to it.
Yeah.
So.
So you guys, when we were in the like the room, and you guys started having a discussion about something, so go ahead, just blur it out now, because I had
Oh,
to stop
the
you
fall run.
several times. I had to
Well,
stop you several times.
I like because Captain Bryan opened up with his wife's hiking the AT Trail. So of course, I've actually hiked sections of that
Oh,
myself
nice.
back in the early '90s. So
Yeah,
did you know that there was a serial killer on the AT Trail that was
Yep.
killing people in their tents?
I
Yep.
believe it.
Yep.
I
I
didn't know
remember
that,
that.
but I refused to Google anything
Yeah.
just because I knew I could find something about it.
So I was
You know what I mean?
we were actually me and my friends were on the trail when he was out there.
Actually, wait. Now that you say that, it was in. Yeah, you said it was in the '90s.
Yep.
Yeah. I did hear about that. I heard about that like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned it.
So what we would do is when we'd set up camp at night, we wouldn't camp in
In the
the
spots where they
structures that
allow you.
that you're supposed
Right,
to camp
right.
in. We would set up off into the woods near there with our tents
Yeah.
with brush over top of the tents, camouflaged.
That's wild.
And we felt 100% comfortable that we were waking up the next morning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. People are nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I think overall it's probably one of the safer things you can do, but there's risk everywhere at this point. I mean, honestly, being in a mall is probably more dangerous than being on the AT at this
Yep.
this day and age.
So Dave got to experience sleeping in a tent for
yeah.
first time in like 40 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was cool, man. It was all right.
I tell you,
Can't wait to go. Can't wait to go back.
Where'd you
there's
go?
something therapeutic about that too. About
Oh yeah.
sleeping in the wild in a tent at night, just listening to all of the wildlife at night, just it knocks you right out and you sleep.
Oh yeah.
I just get drunk.
You get drunk?
I don't have that luxury. People would say to me, "Oh, you going with her?" Like, hell no. I'm not going on a 5-month walk.
Ooh. Wow.
Well, so we went fishing and we stayed at the campground for 4 days. Dave, it was
Yeah.
4 days.
Yeah. 4 days.
Where was this?
In Pennsylvania, Central PA.
Okay.
It's in the sticks. There's nothing around. There's no
Yeah.
grocery store for like 40 miles.
Yep.
I'm used to be a grocery store like every 10 minutes from me.
Yeah.
So Dave got to experience that with no cell phone service at all.
Which was cool. I loved it.
It is pretty cool. Yeah.
But then we floated down the river and we got an island and just camped out on the island, which there's nothing on the island besides what you bring with you. So
Yep.
we
And serial killers.
No bathroom, no showers.
No, we call them the island bears.
Yeah. Yeah. How big is this island? Probably pretty small.
Not big. I'm talking maybe 100 feet by 100 feet.
Oh, okay.
100 feet by 100 feet. What if you had a flash flood that night?
There was no flashlight coming
Nah.
through. I would check the weather.
Yeah.
And the boat was nearby, so if you got to get into it, you just get in the boat.
That's it.
But it was pretty cool. We got to hear the wood ducks singing to us, and I liked it. I don't know if Dave did or didn't. I enjoyed that.
No, it was
shit.
cool. What's annoying was the races going on. They had a racetrack.
The racetrack was annoying, but we had the fire going. It
was cool, man.
It was nice.
It was
Cool.
good.
Yeah. So, Joe, the like we started talking about earlier before when George shut it down. So real quick, run me through what fishing in Jersey is like now, because obviously, what is it? April they start pushing in to spawn.
Well, even March. But in April, I mean, they get an influx of stripers running up the Delaware to spawn.
Yeah.
First they're following herring up there, and then they're following them, gorging on them and spawning. So obviously they spawn in the Delaware, the Hudson River fish, the Delaware fish, and the Chesapeake fish, which there's hardly any left. But yeah, so that's in like starts in early April. But we have a year-round resident fish too,
Yeah.
mostly schoolies. But yeah, so they run. They're when they're done spawning, they're conjugating around the Delaware Bay and then running up north to probably the mouth of the Raritan Bay, feeding. That's when they, with the Hudson fish, and then they go up through Massachusetts and hang out at Martha's Vineyard for a while, and Connecticut and all those spots, and then I guess that's why I wanted to ask you: do those big bass, those big, spawning bass, camp off of the coast of Maine? Like,
They've been
I don't know
catching
where these
nothing but
big fish are
38
going.
inches. They've been catching
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
but 38 inches or 40 inches this year.
Yeah.
They've been catching
Up
massive
here?
fish up there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, so the for the people that weren't here, obviously for the beginning, I was asking Joe about, because I was thinking about it recently, how in Maine we have the spring run, right? Usually mid-May, early May, fish start pushing in, and then they basically hang out all summer, and then in the fall they kind of school up and they head out. But
Right.
when you're talking about, Jersey or Montauk, and I've never fished down there, but and the reason I mentioned it too is some guy like 5 years ago, I was fishing just a spot and he had Jersey plates. So I said to him, I said, "What the hell are you doing in Maine? Like, Jersey's got the cows, And this was like late May, and he said, or sorry, late June, like almost kind of the start of summer season, if you will, for Maine. And he basically said there's no fish down there. And now I don't think he meant literally, but from the sounds of it, they kind of left Jersey, and they're
The
all up in,
biomass,
like,
the
northern, yeah,
the biomass leaves.
right, yeah.
I
So
think
it's interesting.
I think it
Yeah.
depends on the year too. I think
Yeah.
some of the years
Yeah,
they stay a
yeah.
little longer. Some years they leave way early. Like sometimes
Yeah.
they're already gone now, but they're still catching them down here. Just not the big ones like you guys are catching.
Yeah,
Unless,
well, they're just starting to push in kind of heavy right now. I mean, people have caught them. Like I caught a 1/40 May 20th or something.
Nice.
Maybe a little bit later than that. But what's interesting is 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I usually start fishing May 5th. That's usually only about as long as I can handle not trying, And like 3 years ago, I started trying May 5th. I lived in Saco then, so I'm fishing the Saco River, all around there. And I literally fished from the 5th to the 20th before I caught a striper. And
Wow.
I fished. I mean, I didn't go out and spend 6 hours, but I would go out and I'd fish for 2 hours in the morning, and then I'd go about my day, and then I'd go back at night, and I was just searching for that first fish, and I actually caught a brown trout down at the mouth in May 10th or whatever. So that was 3-4 years ago. This year, my first fish was May 5th. And I caught like 4 that day. So it's not like it was just a random holdover that I caught. I caught a handful, and it could have been holdovers. There's always the debate in Maine. I'm sure it's the same. Well, I don't know if it's the same down there, but it's not a fresh fish; it's a holdover. I don't really give a shit personally. I just want to catch a striper. But so Joe, back to that spring and fall run thing. So in Maine, they come up and they basically hang out here.
Right.
Like they go into what we call the summer doldrums, which admittedly I don't like. Yes, the fishing is different, but I don't think it's necessarily worse. Like I've had phenomenal days in August. It's harder for, say, somebody on shore for sure, but in general the fish are here and they have to eat.
Are they like are they spaced out, like just in roving packs, or are they all schooled up and blitzing bait and stuff like off the coast?
In the spring they're in schools. So like, for example, on Monday, I think it was, either way, a couple days ago, I was out in the Saco area, and there were pods of probably 30 to 50 fish, all of them 40 inches plus.
Wow.
Just the cows moving in. And I
Holy
saw that. I've
fuck.
seen the same thing. Yeah, it's wild. It's not the interesting thing about it though is they're not really feeding. necessarily. I mean, these are the cows anyway. These are the fish that they're gonna feed at night primarily. I've caught them in that situation where it's 1 o'clock, the sun's high, and you see this mass kind of moving towards you, and you're like, holy shit, those are fish. You cast, and one grabs it, but they're more or less just kind of pushing in. They're coming up for the year, and
Right.
usually not till like later June, July, when they kind of get into that summer pattern where they're in big schools and they feed at night, and you can go and catch a handful of 40s, like Larry Blanchett. I don't know if you know him. He's down south a little bit, but him and a couple other guys kind of brought the side scanning the beaches thing up to Maine, which I started doing.
Oh,
a
I
few
know who
years
you're
ago.
talking about. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, this monster fish. But you basically just side scan, cruise around, and your fish finder absolutely lights up with fish. Absolutely lights up. And sometimes it's actually kind of, I don't do guided trips for that, for a few reasons. One, I only have a 17. It's a very, you're going out at night in the ocean. You're not in the bays. You know what I mean? You're going out into the straight up ocean, and you really have to be able to cast 80, 100 feet. You just have to, because you're not getting right up in these fish, and you're casting, big, however long this is, 12-inch
Sand eel patterns.
eels. Yeah,
Yeah.
sand eels are little.
Well, no, not sand eels. I meant eels, black eels.
Yeah.
Sand eels
these,
do get
this
that
one's-
big, by the way.
They do, yeah, in like Cape Cod, I guess. We don't get them that big
Offshore.
Offshore.
no shit.
Where they
Yeah.
spawn. They go spawning offshore.
Yeah. But so those big fish, they're and like I said, I mean, people are catching 40s already, which is, I mean, by now it's mid-June. That's not super rare, but people were catching them early. Like the first fish I caught was like 28 inches, like a solid slot fish, and for the most part too, especially in mid to late May when they first push in. 5-6 years ago, it was. I mean, I would catch 10-inch stripers, not only, but you'd find that 10-inch, 12-inch fish in there, and now the smallest one I think I've caught this year is probably 18, 17,
Wow.
which is a small striper, but it's not what we call the dinks,
Right.
I would consider 18 to the whole thing, and I'm curious what you guys think as far as what's a schoolie, right? Some people will kind of jokingly say a schoolie is anything under 40. Obviously not. I heard years ago when I started really getting into striper, schoolie is like under 24, under 2 feet
Yep.
is a schoolie.
Yep.
Whatever. So using that as a reference, there's few schoolies if you're using 24 and under as the reference. There's not as many as there should be. I mean, a couple years ago, there's whole bays just blowing up with bait and birds the whole outgoing tide, 6 hours straight, just mayhem. And now it's like, I've seen some blitzes this year, but not like it. Not like
I mean, now there's all big fish, and that's a problem. They need the conservation. I think they need to revisit that every couple of years and change the slots around.
Well,
which
yeah,
they
I
did
think
in Maine.
it's on the years too. I think that's so
Yeah.
different. That's why I was saying it's year to year. You see different things, and sometimes they stay longer. That sometimes they stay a shorter amount of time. And I believe, in my personal opinion, is sometimes those schoolies they hang around where more bait is. If it's holding here and it's not moving, they're not gonna leave. They're gonna stay here. Why leave when they could just, gorge on it here? And we've had
in Jersey.
yeah, or in general. Like this year on the Cape, they haven't had any fish. Cape hasn't seen any fish. All the fish passed Cape and they went straight to Maine. They didn't.
Wow.
They didn't.
Love that.
They had the cheeky tournament. They had the cheeky tournament, and on the cheeky tournament, out of the whole entire weekend, they caught maybe 20 fish out of 100 anglers.
Really?
Well, there's
Yeah.
probably no bait there to hold them in.
There was
That's
just
another
no fish. They just went right to Maine.
Because I remember going to the vineyard, and those fish would definitely be there, and they were moving, they were migrating, and they were a group of a school of fish would come in and then be gone the next day, and then you'd wait for another
Right.
school.
So, but that's what I mean, though. Like I think the schoolies might not be moving because of the bait. With the
Could
warmer
be.
temperatures and the warmer winters we've had, in my opinion, I think the waters are staying warmer throughout the winter. The bait
Right.
doesn't need to move, so therefore the
Well,
schoolies and the bigger fish are holding in areas that they normally wouldn't.
well, I can
Mhm.
tell you, I was catching schoolies on the Ocean City bridge lights up until Christmas Eve in Jersey.
Yeah, that's exactly
And
what I mean.
we're talking about schoolies eating freaking shrimp on up until Christmas, like at nighttime at the
Wow.
lights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
wild.
I don't know who wants to be there in Christmas when it's cold, but
Well, that's the thing. You
the
know,
antenna was calling you back.
that's the thing. You know, you got to be pretty damn dedicated to do stuff like that.
Um, but I have a question. Like, so up in Maine, right? You said the fish are staying in the ocean. They don't come into the bays or the rivers or
Oh
anything
no, they
like
do.
that. They do.
They do. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So the fish push in mid May usually. That's the ballpark is May 15th, Mother's Day, whatever. They push in and they go up all the rivers. I mean, there's Waterville, Maine is. Oh, I have no legitimate, actual, realistic guess, but I'm gonna just call it 20 miles from the mouth. It might be more than that. I don't know what it is, but it's a lot. It's not like a 3 mile hike to the dam in Waterville. It's up there, and there's stripers there now. You know, like I could tell you right now. But so they come in, they push up into all the rivers, chasing the herring. Usually the herring show up a little bit before the actual stripers do, which is yeah. So oh holy shit. So from the actual mouth of the Kennebec River, I mean I'm just guesstimating here, but 10, 20, 30, 40, 60 miles. You're talking
Wow.
wow,
up to
Wow.
Waterville.
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
a
and
lot.
they're up there. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a lot.
I mean,
Um,
they go really far on the upper Delaware. They go
Yeah,
way up
right,
there.
right. Are they
yeah, I
pushing
saw
up to the
posts.
Penobscot River too?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're up there. You know, like the northern end of Casco Bay a couple years ago was loaded with big fish. I mean, they
Those
were
are,
just on pogies all summer.
is there
What's your
fish
biggest?
around Arcadia National Park area?
I think so. I mean, that's upper
That's a
Casco
little
Bay.
that's a little north of Costco Bay.
Yeah, that's up there. Upper Casco Bay is like Harpswell. You know, Popham. Popham's kind of the tip, if you will, the northeast tip of
And
it. But yeah, they catch them up north. I mean, they catch them up in Rockland and Camden, Belfast. You know, all up there.
What's your biggest striper?
My biggest that I've
Yeah.
caught, 46, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah. The biggest
Not
I've
bad.
seen myself is 48.
Yeah.
On a
48.
fly
That
rod.
was actually
on a
measured.
fly rod.
On the
or
on the fly?
No, on a fly, mine was probably 46 on a fly. The 48 was on a GT eel.
Okay.
A buddy of mine last year actually,
see,
and it was just crazy.
see, getting back to the conservation of that, I've seen in the past 2 years, I've seen so many fly rod fish caught in the 40s. Like, it's like nothing anymore. It used to be when I
Oh, yeah.
was fly fish used to be that was a freaking like a once in a lifetime fish. Now now it's like nothing. It's like
Yeah,
in Jersey, in the Raritan Bay, they were catching them, for a month.
right. I think so. Have you seen Running the Coast, the striper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all seen it, right? Phenomenal movie. But there's one guy, I forget who he is, I forget what his name is, but he talks about how basically you're catching, like a lot of people are like, oh, the fish are fine, I caught 540s this year. I didn't even catch 140 last year. Like the fish are obviously fine. It's like, no, a 32-inch fish is way more aggressive and way more likely to eat your fly than a 40.
Yep.
I've watched 40s swim up to my fly, two at a time, swim up to my fly, flick me off, and swim away. Like hundreds of times.
How
So
many
it's-
fish did we
you know.
have that night, Dave? How many fish were chasing our flies and they just said, "See you later." Fuck
Oh
you.
yeah. They gave us a
Yeah.
finger too, man. So many.
Right, right.
Yep.
So I think on one hand it is that, Joe, like you're talking about, like, there's more people are catching these bigger fish. But I do think as well, part of it is like people get better, like I don't know, like, at this point, for example, with the side scanning, going out at night, throwing those big eel flies, it's not, like the craziest night we ever had was like 11 fish over 40. And then a handful of like 30, 25s, you know, stuff like that, which is a blast. But it's not, I don't know that it's because there's more 40s or if it's because we tried a new technique, we practiced it, we put the time and effort into like figuring out how to do that. We brought different flies, saw which ones worked. You know what I mean? Like for all I know, if I did it 8 years ago, the same thing I'm doing now, for all I know, I'd be catching 30 40s a night.
Well, they
You know,
changed the
it's
regulations.
hard to-
They changed the regulations where you can't keep fish over 37. I mean, back when I started,
Yeah.
everybody was keeping the big bass. They were doing live lining
Oh, they were?
and just bail. Yeah, I've seen boats filled with bass, like big
Yeah.
bass. Like they were every fish
Okay.
big bass they were keeping. But they changed it, so there's definitely more bigger bass now, for sure.
good. Yeah.
This brute that's coming up, the 2015 or whatever they are.
Yeah, they're like they're anywhere from what 32 to 39 inches now.
They're,
Back
they're,
to
they're
2015 class?
yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah. Yeah.
big. They're big fish. A lot of big fish, and
Yeah.
a
Well,
lot
like
of
we were
big
saying
fish.
earlier, the schoolies. I mean, you can, if you look at the last 3 years, as far as Maine at least, you know, 3-4 years ago they were 15 to 18-inch fish. The next year they were, you know, 17 to 20-inch fish, and it's now they're, you know, 24 to 26-inch fish, and it's
See where I fish, you'll get a lot of schoolies. I would say July on.
really
You'll get a lot of schoolies. The big fish are pretty much gone.
Right.
But last year, the bigger schoolies stuck around, so you were getting above the average of a schoolie. You were still catching keeper sizes, 28 to
Yeah.
30, all summer long last year. This year, I'm seeing a lot of schoolies fighting with big fish, competing for the bait that's coming down, whether it's shrimp
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
other bait. So, I don't know if they're just a more aggressive strain or whatever it is of fish, but if there's a lot of schoolies, you're going to have good years down the road, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing that you got a lot of schoolies around, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, the thing that blows my mind is like, and I'm not 100% confident that this is in fact the law, so correct me if I'm wrong. But, you know, you got a lot of the states keeping 28 to, 35. Now for Maine, I think in Mass, I think everywhere actually, they bumped it down to 31, right? Then you have in Jersey and down south, isn't there a smaller class than that people can keep?
Chesapeake.
Yeah, what's it in the Chesapeake?
I think they can keep like
28, maybe?
16 to like 20 inches or something.
Sure. So you got 16 to 20s getting taken out of Chesapeake. You got 28 to 31s for this year. Last year was 28 to 35s getting taken everywhere else. And then you have commercial taking 35 plus. So everybody's taken from every piece of the fishery. It's just kind of like, I feel like a 5-year-old would be like, that's probably not a good idea. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like we're taking all different sizes from it, And I'm not gonna, I'm not getting into whether or not commercial's the problem, recreational is the problem. I mean, it's pretty clear that recreational is the biggest problem as far as overall harvest, but it's just the whole system is kind of crazy, how it all works.
Even catch and release too definitely has the mortality factor.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Definitely have it.
Well, we could talk about that. I could talk about that all day. Catch and release.
Oh yeah.
Like it's just the shit, and I'm sure it's the same down there. But
It's worse down
the
here.
shit that we see, is it? Yeah, the shit we see
Yeah,
up here.
it's
is
everywhere.
mind-blowing. Yeah, it is everywhere, and not even just saltwater too. It's freshwater and stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
everything.
just nonstop.
I actually, you had mentioned like me posting a video every week or so. I haven't in a little bit, but just yesterday I was working on one that's basically about landing fish with a fly rod. And me and Greg Labonte were talking about this recently. I have caught 40-inch fish that did not put itself on the reel. I've caught 31-inch
Wow.
fish that absolutely ripped drag. And then I've caught 28-inch fish that I thought were 40s because they were just fighting like crazy.
Yep.
Yep.
And then I've caught 36s that just like and let you pull them in. So, bottom line is the amount of people that I see, particularly with fly fishing, like if it lets you put pressure on it, put pressure on it. Get it in. Like I have so many clips of me catching, a 20 to 25-inch fish, and I went through and I looked and I timed how long does it actually take me to land a fish? Because when I catch a 28, it's like this anxiety where I need to get it in because maybe there's a 35 in the school. So I get it in fast, and and also I don't want to, there's no point in fighting it to death. But every single fight that I looked at was like 30 seconds between setting the hook and grabbing that fish. And it's just like the videos you see of people being like, oh, I got a nice striper, and it's just peeling line and they're fighting it, and they're scared to put pressure on it, and it's like this whole big fight, and then they bring it in and it's a 20-inch fish. It's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's people being dickheads. I don't think they're just like, oh, I'm gonna let it run and peel drag for fun. I don't think people realize how much you can rope on a fish with a 9-weight, even an 8-weight. I mean, I have a video of Greg Labonte last summer on the bow of my boat, hooked up to, I think it was like a 38, 40-inch fish, somewhere in that ballpark. And he's just bent over the bow of my boat, and his rod is like, completely bent over. And he is fully locked up on it. And he has 20-pound leader, I think, maybe 25. But he didn't break it off. He didn't break a rod. You know what I mean? He got the 38-inch fish in and landed in probably less than 3 minutes.
I think that's the other thing too. Like a lot of people when they use a lower weight rod, like Greg used the 8-weight. A lot of people think they need to take it easy because they're afraid they're gonna blow their rod. They're not. Their brain is not understanding how much pressure that rod could take.
Yeah. Or they grab it up top.
And then they snap
smash it that way.
But you could really. My buddy used the 8-weight for a very long. And Dave saw where I fish, and you need to have you have to let the fish run, because unless you get him in the soft pocket, you're gonna lose a lot of shit, whether it's your fly line or your whole entire rig. But you're gonna lose it. No, even if you're using a 30-pound, because the current where I fish is super strong.
Oh yeah. The 25-inch fish in the Saco River when it's ripping.
Yeah.
You think you have a 50 on.
Yeah, so you got to put it in a soft pocket, and you might have to play him a little longer to get him into that softer pocket. But he would land fish, like you said, and I would time him sometimes. It'd be like 30 to 45 seconds at the most.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, how are you doing this? He's like, because if I put a lot of pressure on him, that rod's going to fight that fish and stress it the fuck out. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, that's why I got to get it in and let it out. I'm like, oh.
You got to watch. Okay. You guys got to watch the video on Andy Mill, How to Fight Fish. Like, once you understand that. What's that?
Andy Mill, is that what you said?
Yeah, he's like the tarpon god. He won the most tarpon cups ever. So, is
he on YouTube?
Yeah,
is he on YouTube?
Yeah, he's everywhere, dude. He's like the tarpon god of the world.
Joe, why don't you do us a favor? Can you put that in the chat, the name?
Yeah. So he has a video on how to fight fish. So I've seen this many years ago, and it makes me laugh because a 28-inch striper on an 8-weight, and you're using 20-pound leader. Technically, you can strip that fish in if you wanted to. He's not going to break the 20-pound leader. No. The worst thing that can happen is you're going to pull the hook out of his mouth. So, case in point, last week I had 2 bull reds on. They were both over 40 inches. And I had an 8-weight. I was under gun, but to my nature, for what I know how to fight fish and put max pressure on fish, I had the fish basically 5 feet from me, and then popped. Because not only that is that you have sharks running around the Chesapeake. I didn't want to I knew I had an 8-weight and I wanted to get this fish in as soon as possible because I didn't want to kill this fish. But you just, when I talked to Captain Jake Jordan about this, who's the guru of big game fly fishing, and he teaches people how to fight fish. He said he can land a 200-pound tuna, on a 14-weight in 10 minutes. And yet you'll have guys that'll sit there and fight that same tuna with the same rod for an hour.
Oh, yeah. for sure.
So let me ask you this: when you say the hook is popping out of his mouth, are you ripping the fish's lips, or
So the
is it
hook,
popping out because it slipped out? Because there's a big difference, and in a way,
yeah.
I get a little scared that I'm ripping the fish's lip apart because
No,
I don't
so
know.
you're
Does it come back? Does it get together? I've seen some fucked up ass fish that
yeah,
got
so
their lips ripped apart. So
no, so the hook, if you put a lot of pressure on that hook, it wears a hole. The skin that's
yeah,
pierced, it'll wear a bigger hole through it.
Yes, it
You
will.
know, and eventually if the fish turns a certain way or whatever,
You
it'll
lost
just
it.
pop out. Like
Yep.
especially if you pinch your barbs, and if sometimes it happens when you're reeling. Like if you ever see if you ever see videos, and I know that you've had Brian, you had probably customers, and everybody's seen this, where they catch a fish, and they're just the rod's at one spot, and they're just reeling the fish in, letting it pull drag, reeling the fish in. No, you got to pump that fish. You got to go down, pull up with
Yep.
your hips,
Come back.
hoist it, reel it coming down. But sometimes when you're going up and you have just a little too much slack, the hook can pop out. But you got to pump that fish down and up, down and up. Not just reeling the fish in, let it pull drag, reeling the fish in. So, yeah, I mean, don't take my word for it. There's plenty of videos out there on how to fight big fish.
Yeah, well, I think, and like I said earlier too, I don't think anybody who's taking 3 minutes, 4 minutes, even 5 minutes to land a 25-inch striper, I don't think they're doing it to be assholes. I don't think they're. I just think they don't know
Right.
how much pressure you can actually put on a fish. I mean,
Absolutely.
like I said, I've watched Greg, and I've done it myself. Land a 35, 40-inch fish on a 9 weight in less than 2-3 minutes.
So we're gonna have Greg on, and I'm gonna bring
Yeah,
it up
yeah, yeah.
because the guy
should've,
is
but-
like a god when it comes to knowing about fisheries, and he
Oh, yeah,
teaches it
yeah.
in college, right? Is that correct?
Yeah,
He's like
an
a
extreme nerd.
and
Does he-
he knows everything about fish. I mean, he knows every fucking
Listen, we
part
don't
of the
need to
fish.
we don't need to pump him up too much.
Listen, the dude is like you ask him
No,
one
he does.
question, and it's just like.
yeah.
Your fucking mind is blown because you learn shit about fish you never fucking knew, and you fish for fish all your life.
Well, good,
We
because
were
I
at,
can use him and I can use Brian as my fish finder. So you guys let me know when Costco Bay is loaded with football tunas.
With tunas, yeah.
Football
Greg
tunas,
is,
because there was a time where there was pods and pods of football tunas in Costco Bay.
So I never heard of that, but now that you mention it, like 2
Now
years
he's
ago,
on the lookout.
no, there was yeah, I will be. But a couple years ago, there was pogies all over the place in basically Saco, Biddeford, Kennebunk, all around there, and some of those areas, you're at the edge because Maine's very different than Jersey. It's a lot of it's rock. Like
Yep.
I'm standing. Some of the places I fish, I'm standing on the edge, and the water's 2 feet in front of me, and it's 40 feet deep, like right at my feet. Like
Wow.
you fall in, you're you better find a rock to climb up on or whatever. But I was fishing one of those areas, and they were just pogies, like literally miles of pogies, and you'd see a blitz like way out there that there's no way you could reach, whatever. And I saw what looked like a fucking football come probably 300 yards offshore, which is not offshore. It's 300 yards from the coast. So we're not talking 3, 4, 5, 6 miles out. I watched what I swore was a tuna come flying out of the water.
Definitely.
And I kind of just, I told my buddy, whatever, kind of kept it to myself, but I was like, I think I saw a tuna, like, bust on all those pogies out there. And then about 4 days later, this guy who guides down in Old Orchard, Wells area, posted a video, or he sent it to me, I can't remember, but it was a video of probably a 200-300 pound tuna in 8 feet of water right off of Ogunquit Beach. Like, in the video, you can see him looking down over the bow of the boat, and then as he pans around following this tuna, you could see the beach with people on it, like, right there.
Wow.
It was wild. And it had to just be the pogies,
George, did you see that video? Was it last year or the year before? The freaking the blue marlin
Yep.
at Island Beach.
Yep.
Roaming around.
Yep.
It was crazy.
I assume that's in Jersey.
Yeah, Island Beach State Park in Jersey.
Oh yeah.
Any
I-
force?
So
I
you tell
fish
me,
them.
Brian, if that happens this year in this summer,
Tuna roll in.
I'll pack my boat up, go up there for a week, and just fish for tuna up there in that Costco
Yeah,
Bay.
I mean, I know people go out, Jeffrey's Ledge and tuna fish, but I've never heard of them in Casco Bay.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are. I mean,
there's an article in an old issue of Fly Fishing in Salt Waters with Kathy and Barry Beck where they did a trip in Costco Bay when this was a thing back in the
in
90s.
Casco Bay or out of Casco Bay?
With that, no, they went out of Costco Bay with a guide.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Did they leave from Casco Bay and go out to Jeffrey's, or were there fish in Casco Bay?
I'm pretty sure it was in Costco Bay, because the boat they were in, they weren't going to Jeffrey's Ledge.
Right, right. I mean, Casco Bay's deep. There's plenty
Yeah.
of spots that are very, very deep. So. it's
I mean, I've
possible.
been to Stellwagen and I've been to Jeffrey's before.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No.
hunting for tuna, my tuna days. There was times I rolled up on tuna that were so big you couldn't even cast because there's like there's no way you're never gonna get them in.
Yeah.
Any albis go up your way, Brian?
Yeah, that's surprising.
No, I have
No,
never
no
caught an
Albies?
albie. No,
No.
I've never caught one. As far as I know, they kind of cut off around Boston area.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's the Massachusetts accent came out.
What'd I do? What
I
I do?
heard it. I heard it.
What did I say?
Boston.
Boston.
But we did. So blues to you guys are a nuisance, right?
Not
Yeah, they all over the
necessarily.
place.
Not necessarily.
They
It all
used to. They used to
depends.
be.
Okay. Yeah.
Now
'cause
it's
I
different.
used to see stuff. People like fucking blues. I'm trying to catch stripers, whatever.
Yeah.
Me and Greg last year we were out in Scarborough and it was weird. And I don't know if you guys know ocean currents and all this stuff. I don't know too much about that kind of thing and where the different currents maybe come in around Casco Bay and whatever. But the water went from about 63 ocean temp to about 71 in like a day and a half. And when it did that, there were blues everywhere. There's a video I made, just a quick cut video of me and Greg catching some blues on the fly rods, and then that happened for about 5 days in that area. I'm sure there were other areas where there were blues around still, but for about 5 days they were in the same spot every day, regardless of the tide, and you could go there. We basically were doing I assume you guys do this down in Jersey. You do the hookless popper, get them all riled up, bring them in, and they're just there's 6 blues trying to smash the thing, and then cast a fly at them, So we did that for like 4 or 5 days, and then I went out one day and the water was 58 in the same
And they
exact
were
spot
gone.
that like a day, and they were gone.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'm wondering, like, we don't normally get blues. There's always somebody who posts a picture of a blue, and everybody goes, "Oh, blues are in." Nah, not really. Somebody caught one, but
They're
they
a good.
don't-
They're a
not
good
in.
fight. They're a good fighting fish. I'll tell you that.
Yes, they are.
They
Yes,
fight
they are.
really good.
I got my steel leaders right here because I
The-
hope they come back.
And Dave will tell you, I made the cast of I call it the cast of a lifetime because I don't think I'll ever make that cast again. And as soon as that fly hit the water, I did the second on the second strip out of the shadow. I was tight, and I thought I had a big striper on. Like this thing was fighting like no tomorrow, but it was a big blue.
Well,
But
You
they
do
fight
know
hard.
that a bluefish is a blue water fish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So blue water fish natively fight harder because they're just the way they're designed. So it's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
No, I mean they're great, and there's people that just strictly target blues. They rather catch blues versus stripers around here.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
like my buddy, when the big blues are in, he goes, "Yeah, I'd rather catch big blues than stripers."
Dude, they're. I mean, some of the fish that me and Greg caught were, 30 inches or so. But man, it was
They
just
fight.
peel and drag. They
Yeah.
fight like crazy.
Well, with that being said, hold on, let me go. We're gonna be doing a giveaway, and we're almost at the hour and 15. We're at an hour mark almost. So if you guys got to use the bathroom, go use the bathroom, and I'll do the giveaway real quick, or at least I'll say it. So we're lucky enough. We hit 10th episode, and on 10th episode, Arex decided to give us a little package to give away. So we're gonna be giving away a package from Arex. Also, Rise decided to do a donation for the giveaway. They're going to be giving away a hat and a T-shirt. Midwest Bucktails is going to be giving away a couple of tails and some flash. 3Tan is going to be giving away a boat sticker thingy, like a measuring tape. You could pick from 36 to 48 inch, whichever
Oh,
one you want.
cool.
It's really cool. It's like foam. It's got his logo in it. It's big numbers. It's pretty cool. And he's going to be giving away the 310 hat. I'm going to be giving away my Olive Hooked on the Fly hat. And they're on the website if you guys want to grab them. We're going to be giving that away. And we're going to be giving away some stickers and a koozie, either the black or the olive, whichever one you guys want. The olive is here. So if you want that. The giveaway will start as soon as I get all the images in to put the post up. I just wanted to make an announcement so that way you guys are on the lookout for it. And I Fly Fish Montana. He's going to be hooking us up with Montana High Life T-shirt and a bunch of stickers since he's a sticker designer. If you guys didn't see the last episode, go check him out. He'll tell you all the details of what he does. But all right, we're back. Go.
Back.
Go.
Go.
Go. Take it away.
Do what you got to do. I hope I didn't miss
So,
anything.
Brian, I was on your website, so you basically have a John boat, right?
What's that?
You basically have a like aluminum John boat, right?
Did Greg tell you to say that?
Oh, that's just how.
No,
That's
it's
what I.
No,
What is it?
so I do have a John boat, but that's not my striper boat.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a Triumph, which is a 17 center console. The hull is the Triumphs. They used to be called Logic back in the day. It's a Ropaline hull, which, I was talking to another guy that I just met who I've kind of known for years, but we just met officially the other day at the boat launch, and we were talking about it. And as much as sometimes I hate it, I also love it in many ways. So what it is, it's basically a polyethylene. I don't know. It's a plastic, essentially. It's like a roto molded hull.
Huh.
So if I ever have a crack in my hull, I can take an air compressor heat gun, and I can just weld it together. And it's
Oh shit.
yeah, it's like
That's
whereas
cool.
my buddy who has a Robalo or something, he had a crack in his fiberglass, and it took him forever to repair the damn thing. So in some cases it's great. In other cases it's a plastic boat, technically. So it's it's got its pluses and minuses, but it drafts like 8 inches. So for what I'm doing and getting up in skinny water and whatever, it's nice. It does what I need it to do. But yeah, it's not pretty. It's not white and shiny, but I also don't need to wax it, so that's another plus.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Brian, you tying your own flies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling George the other day the amount of shit that I have is ridiculous for somebody who doesn't tie commercially. But I used to sell them on my website, and I sold a lot of them, but I don't know. I like tying I tie for myself, and I tie to try new stuff, and what would happen is somebody would order 30 flies, and I would basically be kicking myself because I wanted to go fish instead.
Fuck, I want to fish. I don't want to tie
Hell yeah.
flies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're in the
that's,
same boat.
that's when you put the flies on hold.
Yep.
So this PM Wood Studio, do you know this guy?
Yes,
Yeah.
we know.
Yeah.
We don't know that guy.
We don't know that guy. We all have his stands.
Yeah, this thing's sick. I
said-
just got it like a week ago.
He sent me the prototype.
Did he? Nice. Yeah, because so many times I would have a fly like this, and I soak it after I tie it, whatever, and I'd be sitting there trying to figure out where the hell to put it. So
Right.
this thing's pretty sweet. It's got the logo on there.
Yeah, so
Yep.
CF
Oh, cool.
CF Designs used to make the same thing basically out of
Okay.
I think it was foam or plastic, and
Yeah.
they don't make it anymore. We're talking 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that thing's, I think, the biggest one that he makes, and I mean, you
Yeah,
could
it's
probably
nice.
fit a 13-inch beast fly on there.
You didn't get the rotating one, did you?
Yeah. Meaning like
Oh, okay.
rotates
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was another. Yeah, no, I think
Yes.
this was it. Is that the only? Is that the
No, they
other
make-
option?
No, he has
He sells
shorter.
them
It makes the regular one
Without
where
a
it doesn't
base.
spin.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the regular
yeah.
without the base.
I got the without the base for Christmas. Somebody got cheap and they didn't want to
Yeah.
donate the
Oh.
better model.
That's the first one. What are you talking about?
I just busted your chops, Dave.
I got mine for free. What are you talking about?
So he got double
Prototype?
deckers. He got double deckers now.
Yeah.
No,
Yep,
it's a great
I saw
idea.
that.
Yep.
I'm actually gonna make a little video
Did
about
you
it.
see?
Just 'cause-
Did you see the vice? The vice holder?
Yeah, I don't like it.
I like it. It
yeah.
works perfectly for if you have We'll not talk about vices since we're sponsored by HMH, but yeah.
If we got the four nice.
I should probably hide my peak, huh?
Get
Get that out of there. I gotta. Yeah, me and Greg were talking about HMH recently, and
Why don't you
I
have
would love-
HMH?
why don't I?
Yeah, because you're up in Maine. It's like your next door neighbor.
I know. I used to live right near where he makes them. I don't have HMH purely because this thing has been around for like 10 years,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
it does what I needed to do.
You need to do. Yeah.
You know, if there was like if John Larrabee called me and he was like, I got one for cheap that's got a little dent in it, I would be
Did you
like-
see that? He's like,
I'd be like, I'll buy it. You know, I just can't justify spending. You know, and I think they're worth it for sure. Don't it? You know, but with having what I have and what it does for me and not tying commercially, there's times where I don't touch this setup for 3 weeks. You know.
yeah.
So I just won't be in here tying.
Yeah, I got 3 HMH vices now.
So it sounds like you probably have one you could get rid of.
No, well, no, because the one my son ties on, that's his.
That you need that one.
He ties on that
Yeah.
one. Then I have the 2 vice and my vice.
Yeah, I'll get one someday, eventually.
But yeah. Anything else? You guys got questions?
Yeah.
Good discussions? Sure.
Yeah. So Brian, what's your favorite fish to catch on a fly rod?
Ooh.
Stripers.
Okay, that was pretty easy to answer.
I mean, as far as like what's around.
Like
You know
if
what I
you
mean? Like,
fish
what
for
I-
any exotic
I know.
fish, like have you gone down
Well,
to the
so-
Keys? Have you gone anywhere?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. If I haven't caught a tarpon, I've never fished for them. I would. So I'll put it to you this way. Even though I haven't caught one, I could tell you right now my favorite fish to catch is a GT.
Oh my god.
Just because I've seen enough. You know, I've seen all I need to see to know that that's a bucket list for sure.
Yeah, that's
but-
pretty cool.
There's a video, and for anybody that hasn't seen it already, on Vimeo, I think it's Vimeo. If you search Poppa, Poppa, it's like 9-10 years old at this point. But it's like EDM techno music and 6 minutes straight of bull redfish just crushing poppers
Yeah, I
fly-
saw that.
on fly rod. It's insanity. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, redfish are pretty damn cool too.
Redfish. Redfish is like honestly, I think in my top 5. Maybe my second. I think for a fly rod fish, it's a perfect fish.
Right.
Yeah, I went down to Florida in March when we sent off the girls on their trip. Me and a girl that she's hiking with's husband, who's a buddy of mine. We went down to Florida. Basically, we were like, hey, they're starting this trail. We might as well make a vacation out of it. So we spent basically almost a week down there, and we did hire 2 guides. One was like a spin kind of bait guy, more or less just to get have my buddy. He's not strictly a fly fisherman by any means. And then we did do a sight fishing trip, and the sight fishing was pretty slow, but there were a handful of reds and sea trout. I caught a nice sea trout down there, but we went in. I did my whole Google Maps recon for the weeks and months leading up to going, and there was this hole that I didn't really know if it was going to be doable based on Google Maps, but we got there, and I was talking to one of the guys who was just fishing. What do they call them down there? The greenback baits, I think it is.
Pilchards.
Yeah, like a little bait fish, whatever. But he was this local guy sitting there, and we got chatting, and essentially, the
Sardinias.
whole area was, what's that?
Sardinias too.
Yeah, I don't know what he was using, but a bunch of little baits. So he basically told me that this whole little mangrove cove area was like, thigh deep the whole way through, but there was a hole in the back that holds snook, redfish, maybe a tarpon, whatever. So we basically venture out there, and mind you, we're from Maine. We don't do sharks, we don't do stingrays, we don't do any of that shit. So it was a little creepy, and the water wasn't super clear either. It was like a back bay mangroves. So we get back there, and there's where we think this hole is, and we can't really see it because again, I can't see my feet, and it's at my thighs, so it's pretty murky water. But there's mullet flipping, and there's clearly bait in there, and I did see. I don't know if it was a snook or redfish, but I would guesstimate 30 inches, kind of spook away. So we knew that there were fish around. So we get back there and we're fishing this hole. And mind you, one guy told me it's a hole that's 15 feet deep, and I have with me a full sinking, 300 grain line. So I had no problem doing that. But then another guy told me it's like 40 feet, 60 feet, something like that. And in my head, I'm like, I'm at my waist. I guess that's a thing in Florida where there's like one, it's like a spring hole and it's just a hole. So anyway, so we fished that for a while, and in front of us, it's kind of just this bowl of this back cove, and this where we, have guesstimated based on like looking at the map, looking at where we are, looking at Google Maps, and being like, it should be right there ish. We're casting on that, and I turn around, and there's like another kind of bowl behind us, probably 100 and 200 feet away, and I turn around and I just see a fucking tail sticking up. And I knew instantly what it was because I've seen tailing redfish videos. So I'm like, no, I freak out, obviously. I'm like, dude, it's tailing redfish. Because that was my thing. That's what I wanted to see. That's what I wanted to do. So we make our way over there. And mind you, this is like sketchy ass mud. Like, you take a step and you sink an inch and you're like, all right, we're good. You take another step and you go like 6 inches and you just don't know what you're, So we're like baby crawling through this stuff. And, we get over there, and I basically say to him, I just want to film this. I just want to film these tails, like cast it out there, whatever. And he did have, so probably for about 10 minutes, we just would see these tails. And these were, I don't know how proportionate, as far as proportions, like the tail of a redfish to a striped bass based on the length. But if it's similar, these were 35, 40-inch fish. These tails are big. And they were just similar. Digging in the mud, and long story short, we didn't catch any, but he did have one just like come at it viciously and then kind of turn off, and it was just but that's kind of like going back to what we said at the very beginning. It's not about the fish. That experience alone, I left that being like, I'm satisfied. I just saw like beautiful big tailing redfish in Florida, which is like what I think of when I think of the mangroves in Florida, snook, redfish, whatever. So I did hook a big tarpon down there. Not tarpon, a snook. If Larry Blanchette watches this, he calls it the Rosa Special. It's literally a black clouser with the chartreuse eyes. Just these little guys. But no flash, no nothing. Me and Greg, get Greg on. He's all about the flash. Flash is stupid. I don't use flash in 99% of my flies. So anyway, I threw that on because I was like, well, if it works in Florida, why wouldn't it work? And there was this little culvert dumping into this bay. And I'll tell you, snook fight like a bastard. I had
my number 2 fish.
Water. Yeah, well, so
my number 2.
People kind of shit on them down there, don't they?
Yeah, they call them trash fish in a way down there.
Yeah,
some do, but they keep them to eat them too. On the East Coast, you can keep them. On the West Coast, I think it's shut down.
They're
okay,
good?
Yeah, because we were on the West Coast.
Yeah, on the West Coast, it's shut down. Yeah.
There was a park ranger. We went to Honeymoon Beach, and I asked her. I said, "Is there good snook fishing in here?" And she was not happy to hear that we wanted to fish for them. We didn't mention keeping them. We didn't mention any of that. She got like defensive right off the rip.
Really?
Said, don't be messing with my snook. And I was like, we're not. Relax. You know, I'm the guy who's gonna land it as quick as possible and keep it in the water and release it. Don't give me shit. But she didn't know that. You know, she just knew we were some Mainers coming to terrorize
I'll
her.
give you one tip if I can teach you anything. When you're
Teach me.
wading in turbid water in the salt,
Yeah.
when you're walking, shuffle your feet.
Yeah, I heard that. My buddy Kevin
Okay.
told me that.
I was
last year.
waiting in the Chesapeake last weekend, and there's rays.
There's
You
rays
know,
in
and if we
Chesapeake,
got
too?
stung
Oh,
out
yeah.
there,
yeah,
it's
you
not a
should.
good thing because we were out
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Wow.
that shit sketched me out.
I got bumped by a brown shark.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, at the Manasquan.
Hmm.
At the dog beach. And on Island Beach State Park in the bay. I was on the kayak. First time going out on a kayak, right? I go
Yeah.
out there. I'm out there. It's dark. I'm like venturing out. I'm like, I got this shit. Like, I'm in a fucking boat. Ain't nobody gonna fuck with me. And all of a sudden, fucking, I see this brown shadow coming right towards me. I got the headlamp on. I'm like, oh no. And then it bumped me, and the whole kayak fucking shook. I said, okay, turn around. I went right back. I'm like, fuck this. I'm never going out there again on a kayak.
You see that
That's
video of the
sketchy,
great
man.
white
Yeah, I saw
attacking
that
that kayak?
Yeah.
That's
Oh
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Insane.
We don't really have to worry about that stuff, but 2 years ago, I think it was, a woman actually got killed by a great white up here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, relax, dude. We're almost done. You can go pee in a minute.
He's like, yeah, I
Go.
gotta go
You
outside.
you could
He's
go
been
take you could go take him out. We'll do the after show.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
gives us a perfect timing.
Perfect.
All right,
buddy,
guys,
you gotta
thank
go.
Cool.
you. If you guys want to see the rest of this episode, tune in on Spotify or listen to it on Apple Podcast, or you can listen to it on Spotify, whatever. But the live feed on here ends. You guys have a good one.
Have a good night.
See you guys
Yeah.
later. Thank you.
See you guys. I don't know when. I'll release it. You guys will see it. I don't even know who's on. I think Josh Mills comes on next. If you guys don't know who Josh Mills is,
You say Andy Mill?
Josh.
Josh, man.
Okay.